kernel of truth, right? Maybe 10, 12%, right? But the notion is it varies. So to your point, the accuracy of a perception or a stereotype can vary. There may be some evidence, right? NBA players being tall, there's good evidence for that, right? But when I ask you all men dogs, beyond your personal experience, first of all, we have to operationally define what a dog is and so forth, right? But you get the point, right? It's hard to generalize a personal experience. We do it all the time, okay? All right, so now, I'm going to show you a clip from the Dave Chappelle show, all right? So, relax, some of y'all, it's okay, all right? So, I'll show you a clip of the Dave Chappelle show. It deals with stereotypes, and then we'll unpack it on the back end. All right, here we go. I think we're still good on audio.
Hey, gang. You know, all my life I've heard that white people can't dance. I don't believe it. I don't think it's so much that white people can't dance. It's just that they like certain musical instruments. That instrument, my friends, is electric guitar. It speaks directly to the soul of the white person. They find it irresistible. Now with me, as you can see, is my good friend John Mayer.
All right.
And we're going to test this theory this afternoon. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's go. It's my personal theory that when white people hear electric guitar,
They cannot resist the urge to dance, no matter where they are. So me and John went to different locations and put this theory to the test.
the sheriff's plea can up them to about another 22%.
Okay, folks, here we are in a corporate boardroom. You can see people behind us working in the bullpens, and right now a meeting is in progress. We want to see what happens when you play electric guitar in the most professional of settings. Ready, John? Okay, cool. Go, go. I knew it. Come on, let's get out of here. Okay, we've seen how white people respond to guitar music at work. Now we're in a chic Manhattan restaurant. It's lunchtime, the business crowd is here, a lot of Bush votes in the room. Let's see how the conservative crowd acts when they hear guitar music while they're eating. John, play the fight riff, play it! Enjoy your lunch, everybody. All right. Every experiment needs a control. Now, right now, me and John are in a barber shop in Harlem. Everyone here is either black or Latino. Let's see how electric guitar works on them. Ready, John? Okay, go. Shut the up! That was pretty much how I expected. Now, let's see how the blacks respond to drums. Questlove, go.
Can't
I still happened to notice some of the Latin people were nodding their heads, but they weren't really feeling it as much as I thought they would. But I think I got the remedy. What would happen if I incorporated within that an electric piano? Sanchez, go! Hey guys, have a good day. Sorry for the rap. So what have we learned, gang? We learned that white people can dance if you play what they like. Electric guitar. Of course, we the blacks can't resist drums, and Latins love congos, and electric piano with Spanish gibberish over it, I guess. So next time someone says that someone from another race can't dance, you tell them. Excuse me?
Get them a permit to shoot out here, and we will.
All right, so that's our law enforcement cameo there. All right, so you saw the stereotypes that were being tested and so forth. All right, so how many of you all, reflecting on your lives, right, at any point could dance decently? You're a decent dancer at any point in your life. All right, so you see the variation here, right? Within any racial group, there's folks who can and cannot dance very well. The human genome has been mapped. There's not a dance gene, right? It's about early exposure, it's about culture and so forth, right? So we know, although this was lighthearted and so forth, we've heard this before, we've seen this before, and some of us may believe this, okay? All right, but here we go, let's unpack this a bit more. So you all, what I want for you, in my deepest parts of my heart, is for you to transform from passive consumers of information to constructive and critical consumers of information, right? If you passively consume this, it's entertaining, right? Oh, that's funny, such and such. Okay, now, let me ask you a few questions. Where were the settings when white folks were tested in terms of their responses to guitar music? Where were they? Corporate boardroom and right, a chic, right, a chic Manhattan restaurant, right? Did you see any people of color in those settings? No. Okay, so say I'm a person of color watching this skit. Even if the skit is about white people responding to guitar, there could have been some folks of color just sprinkled around in the background or something, right? So the notion is, rewind a video of your life. Think about boardroom scenes. When you've been in a boardroom or at a leadership table, see, LA's a little tough, but it may still work. The highest levels of leadership or boardroom scenes. Do those people sitting around the room, the leadership table, do they look like America? Proportionally? No. Right? So the notion is, just like if you've been exposed to 20 surgeons in your life and 18 of them have been male, then when I say surgeon, you're going to think male. If I say corporate boardroom or CEO, you're going to think what? What race and gender? CEO. Right? What percentage of Fortune 500 companies have a female or ethnic minority as their CEO? Less than 5%. Right? And it's actually a nice recent study that came out about minorities and women and going through the process, the typical track to being CEO and all the sort of issues that happen along the way that reduce the likelihood of them getting through that gauntlet. It's pretty interesting. A lot of it involves implicit bias. A lot of it involves implicit bias. It's not about ability, right, or drive. Okay, some other things going on. And I'm not here to beat up on white men, by the way. White men, we cool, we all right. All right? But what I'm saying is there's a lot going on. Okay, so you went to corporate boardrooms to find white people. You went to an elite chic restaurant to find white people. Where'd you go to find black and Hispanic people? Barbershop. Really? Really? So I want to find black and Hispanic people, I go to the barbershop. Right? I could have gone to a corporate setting that had predominantly black folks, or a black restaurant. All right, they do exist. I go to the barbershop, right? And in the barbershop, when you looked at the people there, you had a young Hispanic male with that bandana on. You had a black male with a do-rag, with a blunt in his mouth. Really? Right? You got to understand, folks, these images and these skits and so forth are feeding a certain narrative. Right? You want to find black folks and Hispanic folks, go to a barbershop. Other settings to find white folks. Okay? Now, I'm sure, and I love Dave Chappelle. I think he's a genius. I'm sure he didn't sit down with his writers and say, okay, how can we make people of color feel bad or excluded, right? I'm sure it was, they sat down and said, how can we make this funny? But the byproduct of making things funny, all right, over time, has these exposures. It feeds a narrative. Where are people of color? Are they here? Are they there? Right? And the thing is, you're exposed to tens of thousands of these over your lifetime, passively. Oh, it's funny. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. It's still feeding a narrative. Still feeding a narrative, right? Let me ask you this. When the corporate boardroom scene ended, for about 2 seconds, they showed the people standing or sitting around the corporate boardroom. And one of the young ladies looked a bit different than the others, right? What happened with her?
She had no shirt on.
She was topless. Corporate boardroom, woman topless. Do you understand? Although you all chuckled, because I heard you, don't try to lie now, right? You chuckled, that's feeding into the narrative of objectifying women.
Yep, it sounded good.
It's okay for her to be topless at a corporate boardroom, and that's funny, but you don't understand. Every time you see those little exposures, it's feeding that narrative of female objectification. And that's how it happens, folks. It's not the Illuminati calling people the N-word and all this. No, no, no. It's the small foxes that ruin the vine, right? It's those small sort of death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. Okay? All right, so your turn. What I want you to do is think about a stereotype about police officers. All right, any police officers in the room? Sworn officers? All right. All right. All love. Okay, sir? All right. All right. Take about 10 to 15 seconds and think of a stereotype about police officers, just to yourself. All right, everybody have one? Good? Thinking? All right, here's what I want you to do. Form a group with 1 or 2 other people. So all the groups should be 2 people or 3 people, okay? And I want you to discuss the police stereotype that you came up with your group. I want you to then, for each stereotype, agree on a rough percentage of police officers to whom it actually applies, right? Kernel of Truth. How accurate is the stereotype, okay? And then discuss the extent to which that stereotype also applies to firefighters or active duty military. So assign a percentage for them as well. So share your stereotype, agree on a percentage in terms of police officers to whom it actually applies, and then try to come up with and agree upon a percentage to which it applies to firefighters and active duty military. Everybody good in the instructions?
Yep.
All right, 5 minutes, go for it.
How many do we feel donuts?
And do we have to say like why?
And this is police nationally, not just LAPD. This is national police, just as a general category, not just LAPD, national. Or Long Beach people.
You said and ignorant.
Can we count at something?
All right.
Donuts. What kind of even you like this?
Me. I would say, okay, so for, yeah, it's the firefighters, I have no association. But for something,
Like I went in, say this like, you know, like I said, I would have such a strong opinion.
that would be, yeah, if you ask me for firefighters, I'd say for my staff.
Right.
And like military, I would say, yeah, they're not, I would say color for those 2. That is true. So what would you say? Well, that's because your I say 45. But it's funny how like firefighters have a really good
All right, 30 more seconds, 30 more seconds. All right. I like the energy. All right. All right, all right, all good stuff. Yes. So let's share out, let's share out, let's share out. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. As we go through, you might have come up with multiple stereotypes, okay? Just give me one stereotype that you came up with and you have percentages for. Right? So if a group of 3 might have come up with 3 stereotypes, but just identify one and give me the percentages according to this one. All right, so just pick one and roll with that. Okay, this group here, go. Police or what?
Like donuts.
They like donuts. All right, fair enough. All right, what percentage?
70%.
70%. All right, what about firefighters and active duty military?
It's 0.
0 for both?
Well, it wasn't like, it didn't come out in our mind that that was a
That they hang out at coffee shops.
yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay. All right, so very low percentage.
I
Okay.
like them, but not to the same degree.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. All right. Next group. Let's go here. Give me one of your stereotypes that you.
Tough.
Police officers are tough. What percentage?
We said 90.
90%. Okay. Firefighters, active duty military.
Around the same, 80 to 90.
Okay. 80 to 90, around the same. Okay. All right. Good deal. This group here. Okay.
We said that 45 to 50% of cops are fit.
Are fit. Okay. Good.
And with regard to military and firefighters, they were the same at 90%.
90%. Okay. Good deal. Appreciate that. All right. Over here. It was just.
So we said about 50% of cops are kind of militant type A personality.
Okay. All right.
And then for firefighters, we didn't really think of them as so rigid. They were kind of more like, you know, more laid back, more easygoing, more approachable type. And then the active duty soldiers in the military are more like the 50% of cops.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Were you part of their group or all 3? Okay. All right. Next row, young lady. Were you with them? With the red hair? Okay. All right. Next row behind. Yes, sir.
We landed on donuts.
Donuts. Okay.
Side note, I'm a retired cop and I'm suffering from maple bar.
Okay. All right. Duly noted.
So we talked about 60%.
Okay.
10% of firefighters.
Okay.
They're probably in the scones now or so, I don't know. Military 5%.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So the 3 of you all together in that row. All right. The 2 behind them. Blue shirt.
We started with donuts and then we shifted to overly aggressive.
Overly aggressive. All right. What percentage?
We said that police were about what, like 10, 20% or something like that?
Yeah, like 20%.
Okay. All right. Firefighters or active duty military?
You said firefighters was less, right?
Yeah.
Like 10%?
soldiers in the military, about 50%.
Okay, all right, fair enough, appreciate that. Let's go over here, back row.
Got us.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, staff. Go ahead.
No, I'm not staff.
Oh, okay, but you want to speak out. All right, I hear you. That's right, absolutely, sir.
We actually came with really two cool ones. One, protect their own or their in-group.
Okay.
Their own. We believe about 90% protect their own.
Okay.
You know, they don't tell on their partners or won't.
Ah,
you know,
interesting.
information.
Okay.
And then the other one that we were passionate about was don't community police. We believe about 90%, 80% do not community police.
Gotcha. All right, you know what he means by community policing? All right, so it is what it sounds like. Yeah, but we're actually going to unpack that a bit. But there's a different orientation when you police with the community in mind. It's different from just policing the community. Okay. All right. What percentage of anything for firefighters, active duty military on either of those?
We didn't progress that far.
Okay. Y'all are into those. Okay, I got you. All right. I love the passion and the energy. That was wonderful. All right, back row. Yes.
We didn't get anything, but.
I mean, what were the stereotypes you came up with? Even if you did not agree, what came up?
The majority of police officers do racial profile.
Okay.
But the interesting part was the statement in the first part was that the majority of police officers are racist.
Okay.
So that was another one that came up, which there's a difference between
Okay.
racism and racial profile.
All right. So what percentage of police do you think engage in racial profiling?
I said over 50%.
Okay. What percentage of police do you think are racist? Either one of you can answer.
Well, we have different thoughts.
Right, so tell me your permission to speak freely, right? If you had to give a percentage to police officers that are racist.
I think police officers that racial profile maybe 3 to 4%. Police officers that are racist maybe 0.5%.
Okay. All right. All right. No judgment. No
Question.
Okay.
Isn't implicit bias kind of the same as racial profiling?
Not exactly the same. They're related. They're related, but you can consciously profile.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah. It could be both. But yes, you at an implicit level, there's some connection. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Next group in a row up. So we're going to work our way up this way.
We also said donuts, but we gave a lower percentage, 30%.
All right. 30% like donuts. Okay. Firefighters and military.
And soldiers, we really percentage that we get down at 5.
Okay. All right. 5 for both groups. 5. Okay. All right. Next group.
And donuts is one, and then another was being cut and dried. It's very black or white. There's no middle ground.
Okay. Did you have a percentage for that, the cut and dry piece?
No.
Okay. If you had to guess, what would you say?
Say at least 50%.
Okay. What about firefighters and military? Do you see them as being cut and dry?
Well, about 40%, probably a little bit lower.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. All right. Next group. You coming up the next row?
We said 70% of firefighters were, police officers were male. And then we thought it was higher for firefighters at 80 and then lower for active duty military at 60.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Appreciate that. Were the 3 of you all in a group together on your row? Okay. Y'all good? All right. Next row.
We said we went with aggressive. And for
All right. Police are aggressive. Okay.
And we said 90% for police, 10% for firefighters, and 50% for active duty.
Okay. Fair enough. I remember we said groups of 2 and 3, so all 4 of you weren't in the same group.
No, just this.
Okay. All right. Good. Let's go over here.
We went with donuts.
Okay. What percentage?
That's 100%.
100%. All right. All right. What about firefighters? Active duty military?
We said closer to 60%.
Okay.
They're watching.
Right. You gotta stay fit for those calendars.
Yes.
Right? Okay. All right. All right. Fair enough. Group here? Yes.
We said youth.
You. So police are young?
Young. Yeah.
Okay. What percentage of them would you consider young?
60%.
Okay. All right. What about firefighters or active duty military?
We came to about 50% on that.
Okay. For both groups?
Yes.
Okay. And young, if you had to assign an age to what made someone young or not, what would you say?
Careful.
In this context?
Under 30.
Under 30. Okay, all right, fair. Don't you got nervous over here? Millennials is sensitive, you know? All right, so next group here. I'm sorry, were you, sir, were you with?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next group here.
We said that police officers were bullied as children.
Bullied as children, right? Okay,
And we said we appointed about 30%.
Okay.
And then it didn't really apply to firefighters or soldiers on duty, so we probably said 1 to 5% on those.
Okay, all right, fair enough, appreciate that. And last but not least?
Said they like donuts.
Like donuts, okay, donuts is popular.
They hang out at coffee shops where donuts.
Hang out at coffee shops where donuts are. All right, what percentage, roughly?
50%.
50%. What about firefighters and military?
We said 0 for firefighters because we both thought that they cook, so they did it for firefighters.
Okay.
And police soldiers, 0.
0. Okay. All right. So I appreciate this. This group is a decent enough size where we can sort of go through. And a few things should have happened as you went through this exercise, right? Okay. Let's start off. First, discuss the police stereotypes in your group. So just sharing your perspective might have been like, oh, that's interesting. All right, I thought of the same thing, or I didn't think of the same thing, right? So just hearing other folks' perspective is good, is healthy, is informative. Now, here's the key piece. For each stereotype, agree on a rough percentage. Now, were there any groups out there that had disagreements in the percentage in terms of how accurate these stereotypes were, right? All right, so one person might have said 20%, somebody said 30%, and so forth. How did you resolve those differences? Yes.
We just pick the number in between.
Pick the number in between, right? Just average the two. That's simple, straightforward. Okay. Did some of you all have a rough time agreeing on a percentage? Right? All right, back there. So how did you all resolve that? Or did you resolve that?
I think we agreed to disagree at this point, but I think that education on both of our sides would change our minds to what we feel now.
Interesting point. Right? You wanted to add?
Well, yeah, because my stereotype is that approach with caution, could be dangerous. And it's something that we couldn't quantify because it's, like you said, it's like the end of the day and a bad mood and all that sort of stuff. All the implicit bias that officer might have brought. But so just 100% approach with caution, but you don't know it's going to go off.
Right. Okay. So some of these things are dynamic. Yes, ma'am.
I was asked, was it what I heard or was it from personal experience?
Ah, did y'all catch that? She says, was it what I heard about police officers or from personal experience? Here's a question for you. How many of you, in your discussions with each other, said, well, I conducted a national study on police and I found they like donuts, or I conducted a national study and found, or I read a national study, right? All right, he's an officer, he's raising his hand, he does this work, right? But for the most part, it came down to what? Your personal experience, right? So, you say 20%, somebody else says 40%, and then you start to go back and forth. Well, I know officers, and the ones that I know, the ones that I've seen, the ones that you see the common word there, right? Okay, so if you're basing your perception on your personal experience, you must also be open to the possibility that your personal experience is limited. Not mine, right? Yes, you too, right? So here's the deal, right? New Yorkers are rude. Let's take that stereotype, right? I'll take the hit as a New York City person. New Yorkers are rude. So I'm in Atlanta, and so there's a lot of people from New York City moving to Atlanta, right? So the Georgia people, the Atlanta people down there, like, oh, you Yankees coming down there, taking over, y'all rude and everything, messing up our Southern hospitality. Whatever, right? So I'm having this conversation with a friend, and they're like, yeah, New Yorkers are rude. I said, okay, let's unpack this. How many New Yorkers have you had a meaningful relationship with? Oh, I don't know, 6 or 7. Okay. How many of that 6 or 7 were truly rude? I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. How many people live in New York City? I don't know, a lot. 8 million. So you're going to generalize from 2 to 3 people to 8 million. Really? Yeah. Right? Here's a key piece of interpersonal relations. Do not argue with people's experience. Right? Try to argue with logic, questioning, and challenging the evidence upon which they've come to a conclusion. My experience versus your experience is all emotion. I can't deny your experience. If the 2 or 3 New Yorkers you met are all rude, I can't say, no, they're not. I have to accept those are 2 or 3. But what I can say is, do 2 or 3 represent 8 million? And logically, you'll say, well, okay, probably not. I haven't put my experience on the table. What happens is we get caught up in battling experiences like you might have in your groups. Well, with my experience and my experience, you're back and forth, back and forth. Who's right? You don't know. You don't have national data. Either one of you might be right, right? But you feel passionately about conclusions based upon your personal experience. We do it every day. The vast majority of perceptions and information you have about other people based on personal experience, right? How it's not physically possible for you to be an expert on many different topics. You don't even have the time. Some of you may barely be an expert at your jobs. But the notion is, right? If you're learning your job and all the policies and procedures, now I got to learn something else, right? So, all right, think about, we just came off the holidays, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of that. So we get together with your families and we argue about all the stuff you're not supposed to argue about, right? Race, religion, politics, all that stuff. And my family, they tend to speak in generalities. And so I go through the same thing. Oh, okay, all Republicans are that way? Okay, how many Republicans do you know, really? Okay, based upon Republicans that you know, you think there's no diversity, to what extent you generalize? I go through the whole thing. And then what ends up happening, and you may have had this moment with your family or yourself, well, that's just how I feel. They'll just come, you question them and all, and they'll just get to a moment where they say, whatever, right? I feel this way and that's it, right? Because it's threatening to one's self-esteem to consider the possibility that you might be wrong. Many of our egos cannot take that. And I can't argue with your experience. You say, but that's just how I feel. It happened to me. So, right, okay? So, engaging in conversation, and they get mad at me when we have conversations. Oh, everything's not statistics. You don't have to have evidence for everything, right? So they don't like the fact that I'm thinking critically, some of it, right? Okay, so you get the point, okay? So this notion of kernel of truth, right? How accurate is the stereotype? Start there. Don't start with emotion or pitting your experience against someone else's. It's non-productive. Next, discuss the extent to which a stereotype applies to firefighters and active duty military. You want to undermine someone else's stereotypes or perceptions? Introduce a similar other. Right? Police, firefighters, active duty military. They're all sort of public safety of some form, right? So, for many of you all, when you talked about firefighters or military, you said, oh, it's about the same for them. Well, if it's about the same for them, then is a stereotype really about police? Okay, police officers like donuts. Who doesn't? Think about that. If I bought a bunch of, do you have Krispy Kreme out here? Yeah. Okay, all right, so you know Krispy Kreme, right? I'll let you quick story, right? So Krispy Kreme, so I'm in Atlanta, right? This is my freshman year, and so we go out to a party, whatever. We come back late at night, it's about like 2:30 in the morning, right? And one of my friends in the car says to another friend, let's go see the hot sign is on. I'm like, hot sign? I grew up in New York City, no Krispy Kreme, right? Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, right? They said, hot sign? I'm like, what's that? And so we pull around and we have a Krispy Kreme that has the factory where they make the donuts at the location. And the hot sign is flashing, right? I'm like, okay, what's this? So we go inside, and you remember the old school car washes where the car's being washed and you can look through the glass and see it being washed and go through? That's how these donuts are being made. You can see them go through the process and they come out all hot and glistening and shining, right? And you can get a fresh box, right? It was incredible. Who wouldn't like that? That's not a cop thing. That's a human thing, right? Right. But still, we have these perceptions. And so, as the officer may confirm, former officers may confirm, who knows where that stereotype came from? Police like donuts.
Media, movies.
Okay. Yes, sir. Hand in the back.
It's just a guess, but I think it's because, like, those old windshield donut shops used to be open 24 hours. And that's when the beat officer would, park someplace and do reports or everything else was.
Right. And that's true. And because those donut places and diners are open 24 hours, they were more likely to get robbed.
Oh, yeah.
So the officers were there, right? Crime prevention, and they got a free coffee and donut. It was sort of a win-win. Right? But that's sort of where the thing. But think about it. Who doesn't like donuts? Do you think really police are genetically predisposed to like? No. Right? Okay, we all like donuts. Okay? So again, when you challenge the stereotype with a similar other, right? Or who doesn't, it falls apart. But we have these perceptions. New Yorkers are rude, blah, blah, blah. And if you think about it, if you process it, you think about it critically, okay. It may not so much be the case over the long term. So we have stereotypes. Stereotypes, information. It's cognition. Cognition is just how we encode, process, store, and retrieve information. How you think, right? Cognition. So when you hear the word recognize, recognize, to do again, cognize, to process. I recognize, I recognize, right? So cognition is about mental processes, okay? So that's stereotypes, information, prejudice, feeling. What does that look like? Prejudice, a positive or negative attitude, judgment, or feeling about a person that is generalized from attitudes or beliefs, stereotypes, held about the group to which that person belongs. A prejudgment that involves liking or disliking. Okay. So we just had an election last fall, somewhat polarizing. Some of y'all are still in recovery, I hear it, okay. But in terms of perceptions of Mexican Americans, given the discussion around, borders and immigration and so forth, attitudes towards Mexican Americans may have shifted, pro or con or whatever it might be, right? You might have strong likings or dislikings for formerly incarcerated individuals, child molesters. Let me ask you this. Say you found out someone registered as a sex offender was moving in next door to you. How many of y'all would be happy about that? So most of you all would be neutral, would feel neutral or negative about that, right? Instant reaction, feeling negative. This person is in a certain category, I respond negatively. Now, here's the deal. In Georgia, I don't know what it is here. Maybe the attorneys can help me out. The cutoff for statutory rape is 16 years old. So we've had several cases in Georgia, high school kids, 17-year-old male, 16-year-old female, have sex. Parents of the female were upset about it, charged him with statutory rape. The boy literally gets locked up and has to register as a sex offender when he gets out. Right? Now, that happens, but that's not what we think about when we think of sex offender. We think older person, young male, young child, older person, or child molester. Right? So if someone moved in next door to you, it probably wouldn't occur to you, the 17, 16-year-old scenario, let me go next door and see if that's the case. No, you're like, stay away from them, my kids stay away from them, and so forth, right? That feeling comes immediately, although we don't necessarily always investigate. Some of you all, especially police access, may go into a database and figure out what's going on, right? But the extent to which you'll engage, probably not. Have you ever met someone and said, I don't know what it is about that person. I just really like them. They seem really nice. There's something about them I just like. Or you met someone and said, I don't know what it is about that person. I just don't like them. Right? I can't put my finger on it, but something's not quite right. Okay? What's actually happening at a implicit or subconscious level is those people are, through their nonverbal behaviors or whatever the case may be, are priming you. They're reminding you of people in your past that you've liked or disliked. You can't quite put your finger on it. So you say, I can't put my finger on it, but it's something about them I do or do not like. Okay? You can have an instant reaction to folks, prejudgment, feeling, liking or disliking with very little information, just based upon a limited encounter. So prejudice is the feeling. Here's another point for you. Prejudice is often based on social comparison with other groups in which one's group is a point of reference. How many of you all are normal? Okay, so everybody's abnormal, everybody else go abnormal, right? All right, average height, average weight, average cholesterol, average generosity, average density of hair follicles, right? So the bottom line is we are all deviant in some way. All of us are deviant. No one is perfectly normal, average, or ideal in every way. Every single, yes, you too, are deviant in some way, all right? And so the examples I'm giving you are sort of within the realm of what we might call normalcy. I'm not even talking about that little foot fetish or that leather fetish you have, those clubs you go to the weekend. This is LA, right? Those little things you do. Statistically speaking, most of you have your thing, where if people found out, you might be embarrassed or uncomfortable, right? That's deep. Look at you smiling. I know, yeah, right? A friend of mine, and maybe this is more normal than I thought. A friend of mine, I've known her for a while, but we were eating, and so she has her food. She has vegetables, rice, and chicken, right? A meat. She eats each component separately. She eats all the vegetables first, and then eats all the rice, and then eats the meat. Don't shake your head like that's normal. All right, how many of y'all do that? Exactly, because you do it. That's a little that's a little strange, right? I thought it was. But really, what's the big deal? It's different, right? All the food is still going into the stomach, it's off the plate. I just hadn't seen it that way or do it that way. Different doesn't mean deviant. It doesn't mean less than or worse than. It just means different.
Well, the
right?
vegetables get cold quick.
Okay, all right, I hear you, right? So, is a white shirt better than a red shirt? It's just different,
Yeah.
right? So the notion is you can notice difference without adding value, right? You gotta get that. Noticing difference is fine. Adding value, different, okay? All right, so, all right, let me go to this next slide and then we'll take a break, okay? Okay, next. So, stereotype, information, prejudice, feeling, discrimination, behavior, right? Discrimination, negative or positive behavior towards someone based upon a net positive or negative attitude one holds towards a group to which that person belongs. It's the behavioral manifestation of prejudice, right? It can take the form of job opportunities, legislation, interest rates, whatever the case may be. So let's go back to New Yorkers are rude. New Yorkers are rude, that's information, that's the stereotype. I don't like New Yorkers because they're rude. That's prejudice. Now I dislike them, right? Now, behavior, it depends whether or not behavior plays that out. So say I'm a hiring manager. I'm in Georgia. Say I was born and raised in Georgia, right? I'm a hiring manager and I'm hiring for a customer service position, right? Customer service in Georgia, right? And I have a room full of applicants that day and on my desk I got the resumes. I'm bringing the applicants in one at a time. So next applicant, hometown, New York City. Here we go. Right? Remember, I'm from Georgia. I think New Yorkers are rude. I don't like New Yorkers. So this dude is going to come in and we're going to interview. I'm not going to hire him, even if he interviews well. Why? Because he's acting. He's really rude. He's putting on a show, but I know New Yorkers are rude, so I'm not going to hire him. Right? So I went from information, New Yorkers are rude. Disliking, prejudice, I don't like them. Discrimination, I don't hire them. Do you get those 3 levels? All right? So here's the notion. Someone can call me the N-word in their head all day long. Someone can dislike me in the marrow of their bones all day long. But you better treat me the same, pay me the same, hire me the same, promote me the same. I can't see what's in your head. I can't see what's in your heart, right? Head, stereotype, heart, prejudice, but I can observe behavior. I can go to HR and see, all right, as a female, you are working in public settings, right? Am I being paid the same as my male counterpart? I could unpack data over time and see if there's bias. I could look at behavior. If you want to identify implicit bias, start with the data. Patterns of data over time reveals bias. You don't ask someone, are you implicitly biased? That's dumb, right? Man, it's implicit. They don't even know it's there. You follow the pattern of data over time. That's what's going to reveal bias, okay? So it's stereotyping, information, prejudice, feeling, discrimination, behavior. So now we're ready for our definition, and then we'll take a break, okay? What is implicit bias? Varying degrees of stereotyping, thoughts, prejudice, feelings, and discrimination, behavior, below conscious awareness in a manner that typically provides an advantage for oneself or one's group and or disadvantages for outgroup members. It involves a limited or distorted perception of others. This is our working definition, all right? I just gave you a crash course in intergroup relations, right? So now you know how to define it. People say, well, stereotyping, prejudice, discrimination, what's the difference? Thinking, feeling, and behaving, right? Now, I'm giving you the language to have more sophisticated conversations about the things you may observe every day. But understanding those 3 levels gives you nuance. Again, I cannot see what's in your head. I cannot see what's in your heart. Very difficult to change those things because people are good actors. I just said something. People are good actors. You may not ever know. Do you know spouses keep secrets from each other? No. Not you all, right? But the notion is the person that's supposed to be closest to you in life, you live with, you sleep with, the bank, you share finances, kids, you still may not know everything about them. So you expect me as your coworker to really know how you think and feel? But I can observe your behavior. I can look at whether there's proportionality in who you hire, who you give tickets to, or who you prosecute, or who you do not. I can look at that. Right? Start with the data. Okay. All right, let's take a quick 5-minute break. So I'm going to function on that clock. We'll start back at 3:15, right? Bathrooms and Veronica, you want to?
Right down the hall.
Right over here to your left. Okay.
Okay. Water in the back, little snacks in the back. Don't sneak out. Y'all come back. Like, don't leave. Right? Okay. All right. 4-minute break we're taking.
Probably a long day for you all. Well, I appreciate it. Always good to have you reinforce. Okay, yeah. Good to see you again as well. All right, good. So some of this is reminiscent of our smaller conversations, but we're trying to flesh things out. But yeah, also, so how things oh, that's right. You're over 8 now. That's when I was here before. Yeah. 16.
Yeah, I'm trying to